Hi, good morning, everybody. It's Ann Oro, and I have everybody muted for the start of this. I just wanted to remind everybody that when I do these Zoom conferences, I try to record them. Today, I remembered to hit record. So if you are not wanting to have yourself on camera, feel free to move your mouse around the screen, and down at the bottom, you'll see a participant button. And when you click on participant, you'll be able to turn off your camera there. Also, if you wiggle your mouse around at the bottom, you'll see there's a stop video and a mute button. So you can mute and unmute yourself as you come to share information with us, or thoughts or concerns, or what's working. We'll begin with a prayer. We'll bless ourselves in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Our Father,
who art
in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
So welcome if you're here for the first time, and welcome back if you joined us last week. What I've been doing is using this time to have just an informal get-together, so that teachers have the ability to share a little bit about what's working as you're working digitally with your class, any concerns you have, any thoughts you have. And my role in the Archdiocese of Newark is Assistant Superintendent for Union County Schools, the elementary schools, as well as instructional technology. And one of the ways that I've been seeing principals over the last week and teachers over the last week has been more use of the Zoom platform that we're using right now, and also use of Google Meet. So as everybody's isolated, it becomes more and more important for us to get together and just keep a community. And so that's really what my intent is here, to have a community where we're able to share with one another different ideas. And then also you can help me understand how I can support you better. So before I open it up to people to start sharing, what I'm going to do is just share my desktop. If you go to www.facebook.com/groups/RCAN Teacher Tech, you'll be able to join our group, and teachers from pre-K all the way up to 12th grade are just sharing ideas that they have and questions that they have. Another document that's put together, support for teachers for the extended school closure, is at that www.tinyurl.com/RCAN Digital 2020. It has some general ideas as well as links to other documents. So for example, there's a link to something called a general list of digital tools. And then finally, as I'm helping people out, or these particular Zoom conferences, I'm posting them to the YouTube channel. So I have RCAN, the tinyurl.com/RCAN YouTube. How has your week been going? This is almost the end of our second week of remote learning. And what have you learned that you'd like to share with the group? What's working with you so far? Michelle, go ahead.
Just a question. I've noticed that last week was pretty good, but this week was a bit of a slowdown when it comes to students participating in Zoom. And I kind of want to know what teachers have been doing to, I guess, encourage participation, encourage, you know, for the students to actually come on. I mean, I do record, kind of forgot yesterday, but I do record the meeting so that they have it. But as far as participation goes, I'm kind of a little worried that it might slide a little.
We require the kids to be on for every class, and I think the way we're working it is
we follow up to the parents with a phone call if we find that the kids are not on, or we don't see them, or they're not active. I think it's kind of tough to quantify participation, especially in this setting where we don't know who's got what kind of internet at home, if they have it at home. I found that it's, I mean, we're a 2-to-1 school, so everybody we know has a device, but we also know that there are a few kids that don't have internet access at home. And how are we, we can't tell them go out, go to your local Starbucks or someplace to get internet. So that's been a challenge, but we definitely look for, our teachers are looking for face-to-face interaction. They're on camera, we can see they're actively participating. It's not just they put up, they turn off their cameras and their microphones and then we don't see them. So the teachers are kind of, I don't say it's up to them, but they have to use their good judgment to figure out if students are participating or not.
Thanks for jumping in with that, Al.
Sure.
And Michelle, Al's a high school teacher, Michelle's a middle school teacher. And one of the things that I heard in a conversation with principals this week is, a reminder to us all that we don't know what's going on in any given child's household. And so it could be that some children aren't able to attend just based on what's going on in school. You may have a middle schooler who's actually helping with a younger brother or sister or cousin. So if you can record your Zooms like you're doing and post them, the interaction sometimes is just, are they getting the work done? And I'm going to open this up to a couple more people to share, and then I'll share some other things that I've been hearing as well. So anybody else have some thoughts for Michelle about just keeping student interest and engagement?
Yeah, I've noticed the same thing that Michelle has noticed. So what I find helpful, so the students, I think that their number one motivation of going onto the Zoom classes is mostly to interact with their friends. So if you can try to have something fun, I'm a middle school teacher too. So for example, like one time, we did a religion lesson on Zoom, but I also had them introduce their pets to each other, Another time, so I put all their names, I wrote all their names on a little piece of paper, and I put it in like a little box. And then when we did the rosary together, I pulled out 2 names at a time, and I opened up the paper and I put it in front of the camera, and then those 2 people prayed for each other. Like they would say a prayer for the other person, then they would say their Hail Mary, and then the other person, before they said their Hail Mary, they would say a prayer for that person. So we call them, it's like a prayer pair. And this is something that I used to do in school, except I would have their names on popsicle sticks, and the kids love it. They love having a different person. They love saying a prayer for that person. So I've been getting really good attendance at the Zoom, but that's because I try to structure some kind of like positive social interaction with them, so that they can interact with each other. The other time I asked them, I started by asking a question, like I said, okay guys, how many of you went to bed, who went to bed late? And then we would try to see who went to bed the latest, or who actually went outside and got fresh air, and then I had them share what they've been doing or where they've been going. So like, I think it's important to give them an outlet to interact with each other, not just interacting with you as a teacher and doing a lesson with them, I think moving forward, I know that Zoom has a capability called Breakout Rooms. So a breakout room is a way where you can have like collaborative learning groups, where you can like, like in school, you would assign, let's say, a project, and you would have 2 or 3 people working on a component of a project, right? So you can do that on Zoom too, where you have a breakout room and you assign people in different rooms, and you as the teacher can go in to every single breakout room, you know, check in with everyone. You could also, you know, write an announcement that everybody gets in their breakout room at the same time. I'm looking forward to trying that next week because, you know, I think they need that. It's good to have, it's also fosters collaborative learning as opposed to just that, like you teaching them or them doing a worksheet that you post on Google Classroom. So for me, that last week and this week was just trying to get them used to Zoom, trying to get them used to how to, you know, how to do it and fostering like positive interaction among each other. So I think if you structure a little bit of your lesson with that component in mind, you'll probably see an increase in participation because they do want to see each other. They're very sad to not be in school, you know? So it's good that we can provide them a safe space where they can interact with each other. I think that's important, you know.
Oh, Florence, I absolutely agree. And you know, I didn't ask you to do this, but it's really helpful for each other to know too. Al is from Bergen Catholic, and Michelle is from St. Aloysius in Jersey City. And Florence, remind me what school you're from?
Oh, I'm from St. Bartholomew Academy in Scotch Plains.
Right. Okay, great. So Florence made so many great, um, shared so many great thoughts there. And the biggest one is that the kids are missing that social interaction. And last week, those of you who got together with me, we were talking a little bit about how last week is such a big lift for every single teacher and student because to a large degree it was all about the technology, making sure that you knew what tool you were using and figuring the ins and outs of it. Again, helping the kids, the same kind of thing. And this is where this was probably less technology pieces and more towards that teacher side of things. And so what you find works in the classroom is going to start working for you in online spaces. And if it can be where you're in Zoom at the same time, like Florence did, think about what you are doing in the classroom, like popsicle sticks, that can be done in a different way in the house. So if you forgot your popsicle sticks at home, what Florence did was write the kids' names down and hold them up to the camera and call them up. So that's a great thing. What you also said, Florence, think about the structure that you want and add a surprise into the middle of your Zoom. So like Florence was saying, showing pets to one another or, you know, doing something silly together because the kids are missing that kind of social interaction. And the Zoom breakout rooms I've heard of myself, and I haven't played with it either. So these are the kind of things that I want to try to learn with other people. So if we have groups of people who want to try things together, we can get together in you know, small gatherings towards the end of a given day and just play around together. And you know, maybe Florence, if you figure out how to do a Zoom breakout, you and I can play with it together and record it or invite other people in. So that's what I think the power of doing these Thursday morning meetings are, learning together.
Yeah,
Anybody
actually,
else? Yeah, go ahead,
oh,
Florence.
so I found if you go on YouTube and you just type in Zoom breakout room, the first video that comes up is like, I think it's created by Zoom. It's a 2.5-minute video. I sent it to all my coworkers at St. Bartholomew Academy, and we watch, you know, I told them watch this video, and then we're gonna have like we have a faculty meeting later today. So I said, anybody who wants to practice with each other, just let's do it right after the faculty meeting, you know? So that's kind of what we've been doing. Like we've been like practicing things on one another, hosting, like taking turns hosting and things like that, so that we can go in and feel more confident doing it with the kids. So, but if you go on YouTube, it's so it's like, I think it was like 2.5 minutes. It's really easy. It's I recommend that for anybody. Like if you're struggling with learning how to use anything, any kind of technology platform, YouTube is a great source, because if you just type in that platform, you're going to find tutorials on there, and they're really easy to follow, you know.
Right. And as Florence was saying too, getting together with your own small group of teachers, it gives you some time to play together as a group, to share together what's going on, and to learn together. Anybody else have any suggestions for Michelle? What are you learning that's working to keep people, your students, engaged? And then I'll get to Lori's question in the chat room.
You know, I said so. I just want to, just real quick, they love it when they see our own children. Like when our own children photobomb, like I know when mine come on, they get a kick out of that. They get to see like, oh, we're not only are we human beings, but we actually have our own children. And they kind of get a glimpse into our family life that they would never potentially see. So if you want to keep them interested, I know they're, you know, mine are always, you know, willing to jump behind me and make faces. It does keep them interested, and it's I found in a very interesting kind of way. So just throwing that out there.
No, it's a good point. I was watching Jimmy
Jimmy
Fallon.
Fallon.
He's
Yeah.
been doing Jimmy Fallon at home. And half the fun of it is watching his two daughters just jump in. So you're right, Al. You know, bringing your personal life in is great. The kids would love seeing your pets. Other thoughts that people would like to share with Michelle's question?
You could also do, I've been thinking about doing like theme days, like for example,
That's cute.
yeah, bring a crazy hat, wear a crazy hat on our Zoom meeting,
That's
you
really
know,
cute.
or some kind of like something silly, you know, that they can do. That last, I tried something, I thought it would be I thought it would be a hit, but the students, I had a hard time getting them to participate. I tried doing like a game of Simon Says at the end of our Zoom meeting, and they were just, I guess their spirits were down, but they enjoyed seeing me be silly. So somebody said, Simon says, jump up high. I'm the only one jumping, you know. They thought it was hilarious. None of them, you know, I said, why am I the only one jumping? And they said, oh, we don't feel like it. We're too tired. So I was like, that's okay. You know, make a silly face. So I'm the one making the silly face, but they thought it was funny, you know. So I think like trying to have a little bit of a, you know, even though they might not have participated, I heard like, so parents emailed me and they said, oh, my child really enjoyed the last Zoom meeting, and even though they were sitting there quiet, maybe they didn't interact, but they enjoyed what we did, you know. So it is good. So we're getting good feedback from our parents, and like the other teacher said, it's true, they do like seeing a more of a fun side to you, especially during this time. They're going through so much stress, that everybody's going through a lot of stress. So it's nice to have, again, like a safe place for them to feel that they can just, you know, let it out. Even just having them share, you know, they might not volunteer to share. So like writing the name on the paper, I would just pull the name and call, okay, Jack, I'd like you to share, what snacks have you been eating too much of lately, or something like that, you know, because sometimes they might not want to share, but if they know that you're gonna randomly call people, then they will be more willing to do it, you know.
Yeah, I like the idea about the themes. Our school counselor is talking about doing Spirit Week school-wide, and like you said, have a different special theme for each day, kind of.
I
And
found
then
the 8th graders that one of the things that kind of motivated them is I told them, It was actually their idea, but I agreed to it that if they wear their uniforms, they get extra credit on Zoom. So that was pretty popular. That is still pretty popular. A lot of them still do come in their uniforms.
You know, it's funny. You don't want to wear uniforms. You want a dress down day at school, and it's almost the opposite here. It's something a little special to put the uniform on. And Lori was asking, did anybody try to do a Kahoot while everybody was on Zoom or something like that? That sounds like a lot of tech juggling, but that's a different idea.
Our second grade teacher has done it with the kids, and she also did it with the teachers last night, which was a lot of fun. So we had the Zoom questions on our laptop, and that we also needed our phone to answer the questions. And I'm happy to report that my son and I won. We
Congratulations.
got 53 out of 62 correct.
Oh my gosh, that's great, Peggy. I love it. So now another question that was brought up in the chat room was, are there any issues with recording students? It goes exactly in line with the same rules that we have at school. So you should know in your class who has permission to publish and who doesn't. I wouldn't record and post it anywhere publicly online. So I wouldn't upload it as a public video on YouTube. If you let the parents know that it's going to happen, talk to your principal about it. So first talk to your principal, make sure you know what your principal's feelings are about it. Make sure that you know who has permission to publish and who doesn't. See what you want to do about letting the parents know. And then if you want the children who aren't able to view the video to see it, you could post it in your Google Drive as a private file that you could share in your Google Classroom, which is a private space. And you could upload it to YouTube as an unlisted video that nobody knows how to get to it unless they have your website address for the unlisted YouTube. So those are a couple ways you could do it. And I think maybe Barbara Dolan is with us. I'm not sure if Barbara is Barbara Dolan, but
And my question is, it isn't even about recording. They won't let the kids use video at all.
and this is a school outside the Archdiocese of New York?
Yes, it is. It's a public school.
Right,
Yes.
so they do have different feelings.
Okay, I wanted to know if it was different, just to be sure.
Right. So I have a feeling it's not Barbara Dolan, but we've been, we've been receiving the question in the school's office, and that's the guidance that we've been giving everybody. Talk to your principal, make sure you know who has permission to publish or not, and if you put the video someplace, make sure it's in a private space. Any other things that you felt went well that you'd like to share with us?
I got our second grade teacher to record using QuickTime. And she posted that video on her Google Classroom. And a lot of her students have commented back they were so happy to see her. But when you do it in QuickTime and you post it to your Google Classroom, it only takes 20 seconds. It cut her off.
Okay.
We had 21 seconds and it cut off the last second.
So you have to be watching that. And Sister Roberta is from Our Lady of Guadalupe and Elizabeth. And Sister, if I'm thinking right, your second grade teacher is
Sister Rosemary.
That's what I thought. Okay. So Sister Rosemary is a person who's really trying something technological that is not usually in her comfort zone. So that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Give that a try.
So what I'm understanding now is that we can do a video of her and put it in her Google Drive and then put a link in her Google Classroom?
Absolutely. And if you need help, let me know. But just have her upload it to Drive. Maybe Sister Roberta teach her how to, or you could do it with her.
Right.
Make her a folder for the videos.
Okay.
And then once you upload the file to the Google Drive,
Right.
click on the file and go to the sharing options so that anybody with the link can view it. and then you can copy that link and share it out. And the way that I've been doing it myself, and some of you have different ways to do this, but I'm just going to show you my screen for a second. If I take any file, so let's say that I want to share this, this little screen that I shared a couple of minutes ago. I had put together this slide, and now I want to share this with everybody. I can say I want to share it, and if you're a Microsoft school, you can do the same thing. I'm going to make sure that I change so that anyone with the link can view this. I'm going to save it. I'm going to copy that link. And then my way that I like doing things is I use a website called tinyurl.com. It lets you paste something really long and ugly, which is what those Google links look like. And then in the second box, you can name it a shorter name. And everybody in the world can use this. So what I got in the habit of doing is I start all my tiny URLs with RCAN for Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Newark. So you could do Olga for A Lady of Guadalupe, or SAES for Saint Aloysius Elementary School. And then maybe if you have one or two of each grade level, you could say 01 from a first grade teacher, 02 from a second grade teacher, and then maybe vid 1 for the first video. And when you say make tiny URL, if that is an available shortened link, it shows up here, and you say copy to clipboard, and then you can go into Google Classroom or Edmodo or Class Dojo, and you know, anything that you're using, and create a material that you would share and just add that link. And you could add it as a link on the screen. You could put it in there as a description. And I'm going to call this assignment number 30. See the morning video. And I'm going to make this a topic for the week of March 23rd. And so that way, when you post it, if it was a video that you uploaded, it would be exactly the same. When the kids go to the classroom stream, they'd be able to see that video, and they could type it themselves pretty quickly without all those characters. Okay, so now let's see what we have here. So Sister Roberta, I'm just so excited for your second grade teacher. Oh my gosh. And you know, this is the fun of, you know, some of this, we're all learning as teachers so many new skills that, you know, when you go back to the classroom, you're just going to have tried a ton of new things. And hopefully you'll be able to find some practices that you'd like to keep. So perhaps Sister Rosemary will do this next year at Christmas time, during Christmas break, share a little prayer with the kids or something while they're away on Christmas break. So
I was talking to our principal before we left, and she was really down about the fact that we were going to have to do all our teaching from home. And I said, no, look at it positively. In our tech plan, we said we wanted to go paperless. We wanted to do Google Classroom. And our people have been dragging their feet. Now they're all using it. I even set up pre-K 3 yesterday.
Wow.
That's huge. That's huge. And speaking of pre-K 3, your principals all got a letter. If you know any preschool or kindergarten teachers, tomorrow at 10:30, Gloria Castucci and I are going to host a little Zoom conference for early childhood educators. So feel free to join us. It's the exact same link that you used to get in here this morning, and the exact same phone number.
Will that be posted on your Facebook? Will that be information be posted on the Facebook page?
Yes, it will. So it'll be in the Facebook page, and I'm going to record it as well. So if a preschool or, any early childhood teacher, really even a first, second grade teacher, I think will get a lot out of it. If they can't attend tomorrow because they're doing something in a faculty meeting or with their students, it'll be recorded and put on my YouTube channel as well. And Lori said that Google Meet now allows you to record as well. Michelle's also asking, has anybody tried to do Socrata, or some people call it Socrata, remotely yet?
And
Yes, Chris.
hi, it's Chris Geisen. I use Socrata every single, almost every day, every week in my regular classes. So my students are very, in tune to how to use it. So I've been holding their spelling tests with Socrata. So I just tell them the link's live, they log in, they know my classroom number, and then they take their test and they submit it. 2 of them had technical difficulties they had to redo, but I've used it both weeks and it's working beautifully.
So Michelle, do you have a specific question for Chris about using Socrata?
No, I'm just wondering because when it gives you the option of teacher paced, if I should just reserve some time aside for to give the students the opportunity to sign in and do their tests.
I just leave it open all day long. And I
Okay.
just, as they put it in, they just get on and they put it in, because we have our deadline, at the end of the day, try and have all your work in by this time. So
Okay.
literally, they have all day to do it, but they love it. So usually my kids, they're 7th graders too, so they're older. They just
Okay.
get right in and boom, it's done. So
Wonderful, thank
sometimes
you.
refresh the page, but otherwise it works great.
Wonderful.
Is that better than like using a Google form?
It's just, it makes them feel they're alive. It's really this, you're going to get the same results, planning wise, it's the same amount of time you have to create the test. Another thing that I've been using, our McGraw-Hill science textbook series lets you create tests and take them online. Obviously they give you some canned questions that you can use. But what I did earlier in the year was I started making their religion assignments and their language arts assignments in there also. I just take a blank test, I make it, and then they know they log in and they can take their test online, and any of the multiple choice, true, false, it'll grade automatically. Anything where they're typing in, you have to go through and grade it as you would normally anyway. So my 7th and 8th graders are doing that as well. So they know to log into their science books, and they could get other subjects. You could just name the test whatever you want. You're just typing in all the questions. So that's another option, and that's not where I have to have something open. It's kind of more like the Google Forms. Well, they will come and just take the test when they take it, and then their results post when they post it.
So it's more for if you want to have like a deadline on something.
Yeah, you
Socrata
could.
is good for that?
Socrata, I just leave open all day, and then I grade it, as they're putting it in. But I cut it off at whatever our school time is to cut it off. But they all get them in on time. The other ones with the test through McGraw-Hill, it's the same thing. There's a time limit on there. I don't open it up until the day and then I end it. I extend it a little bit. I put 8 o'clock in case people have technical difficulties. But if you wanted them to sit for a test at a specific time, you can give them 1 hour, whatever. You can give them 15 minutes. You could put the time when it starts and when it ends. So that's, another option that I think we're looking at for, if we're in this situation for final exams or something like that. So I'm going to start showing the other teachers, at least in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, how they can get in. I got them a login because all of our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students have the McGraw-Hill Science series. So we're able to use that for other subjects as well. But that's a whole training thing that we have, some time to work on. So any St. Paul's teachers, don't panic that I'm saying this. We're working on it.
And just kind of to your point too, Florence and Chris, just to clarify, you could even make it due the next day, or if you do it
Yes.
on right. Okay. So
Yep, you could schedule it. Sure. I went on last night to take their religion test from where it was a worksheet posted previously, and I said, let me do this online for them. Excuse me. So I just went in last night and I said, turn on at 7:30 a.m. today and end at 8 o'clock tonight. So you could put it so far in advance. You control the time, whatever it is. What we're finding is a lot of the parents this week are having trouble uploading because Google Classroom is either overloaded or it's their internet or some area had a power outage. So what I'm looking to do is to try and make ways for the teachers to alleviate this uploading of documents that maybe we could do a lot more online. The only concern we have is, if say a parent goes to work and their child's not allowed to be on at at a certain time and they only have so many hours and maybe they have 4 kids, that might not be workable. We'll still leave the options to upload the worksheets that the kids can be working when the parents aren't home. But I'm trying to alleviate this uploading document traffic in case it's specific to St. Paul School, but I really think it's Google Classroom across the board, that it just freezes and it's like they're waiting. So I'm trying to help that out by giving options that we could have assignments done and graded other than uploading, photos of pictures or scanned documents. If it's too much to be, say, a Google Doc, because obviously some of them are making a Google Doc, they could type right in it. But some of it's a little bit more than that they've been doing the worksheets, or like it's a kindergarten, they're drawing pictures or doing something like that. So some of them are still going to have to upload, but I'm trying to alleviate that and have some options for online assessments. And also some that help the grading a little bit for the teachers too. So if you use some of these, like Socrata, it's pre-graded because you put in the answer, so, obviously you have to check it, make sure it's right. But I'm just trying to alleviate and keep the machine moving, if that makes sense.
Also speaking of that, sometimes you can do something very, very low tech, so that if you, if you're having families who are having issues with uploading, you can have your families drop you an email and you can give a phone call home to the family and just do an assessment by talking with the child about what was on the paper and, what did they find hard? What did they find easy? I know there's some schools where they have issues where the children are having difficulties with the internet, or they don't have internet at home, or they have issues with the devices. And so that's what some of the schools are doing. So don't forget that that's an option too. And just as your digital students are really happy to hear from each other on the internet via Zoom and Google Meet, if a child's at home without the internet or without a device, those phone calls home can be priceless too.
We definitely have been
And
doing that.
emails.
And emails, we've been doing that, but I can honestly tell you, and we still have teachers who are working 12 and 14-hour days just to make it work the way it is. And we've been trying to email and work with the parents. And I'm not going to say there's anyone where it's not working. We're making it work. It's happening. It's making it work. I'm just trying to make it work better. So, alleviate some things. But the teachers, I can't say enough about our teachers. Like I said last week, we are not a Google school. And while this is obviously familiar to me, a lot of these people have never seen it since, a week, 2 weeks, whatever they've been working on it. And they're exhausted. And I'm not going to lie, they're exhausted. They're mentally stressed. They're dealing with their own families, worries and concerns that we all are. So I'm just trying to see what I could do to make it, work a little bit better. And yes, we love the interaction with the kids and the phone calls and all of that stuff too. But I'm trying to reduce those hours that some of the people are, still putting in.
Right. And that's only for people who really have nothing, if they're really
right.
it's really helpful. And speaking of what Chris is saying, I think every single principal that I've spoken to, everybody from the school's office is just so overwhelmed with how hard every teacher is trying and how hard every teacher is working. And I think principals, for the most part, are trying hard to remind teachers that the day has to end at some point. And
Right.
that it's not going to be perfect. So, putting in that 12th and 13th and 14th hour, it may feel like you have to do that, but, you have to give yourself a break. And yesterday in the Facebook group, I had posted a really nice article that I had found from Edutopia. It was an article just talking about taking care of yourself as you're trying to take care of so many other people. Amanda P. was also sharing that there's something called Kami, Kami, that I haven't used myself. And she says it allows students to type on PDFs. And you can, Lori says you can request free access to Kami by going to www.kamiapp.com. So there's another option to do some digital submissions on PDFs.
And I just have one more, I know, kind of comment question. I read an article yesterday about some of the security with Zoom, which is not necessarily anything different than what Google does or any of the others where they record things. And I read tips that said you really should keep your camera off and only speak when you need to. Your mic should be off. That obviously it's free and we're having access, and literally they're public links that are sent out. That people are going to see what's in your house. They're going to listen to conversations, you know, sensitive information, whatever. Obviously, we're just trying to get the information out to people. But I just wanted to know what your feel for that was.
So I've been reading the same questions, the same articles, and Al, I would love you to jump in.
Yeah, we told our teachers be very mindful of, you know, what's behind you when you, you know, when you're on camera. We have a, you know, the audio, yes, when you're not talking, you more so for background noise is helpful. But, you know, for me, like, I know what's behind me. It's, you know, I'm very cognizant of where my desk is and what's behind me. But some people, you know, and looking through the room, most people, there's nothing, you know, really defining, but I know some of you have, I can see pictures and stuff. It's just, it's something to think about. Think about, you know, from wherever you are, just do a 360 and look around and say, is there anything that I don't want my students or family or anybody else or their family members to see? You know, we've been making a thing like how the kids look, for example. So like my pullover I'm wearing now sits on the chair next to me. So whenever I have to go on camera, I throw the pullover on if I don't, you know, if I'm not looking, you know, my Sunday best. And you know, it's just it's that thought of, well, what do I look like and what's behind me, and is there anything identifiable? You really can't tell, you know, where I live per se, but maybe if I'm, you know, if I happen to have this and the windows behind me, you can see something identifiable. It's just, you know, it takes 30 seconds to just look around and see, is there anything, you know, important? And I know some of you have that, the Zoom, like the green room or the green wall behind you, which, you know, that helps, but just think about it. It's, you know, I don't think any of the kids are really, you know, it couldn't from that standpoint, but yeah, and you also keep track too of who's in your room. So if you go through and, you know, I see there some names here, but I think I saw, you know, or somebody's, you know, if I didn't recognize a name, I'd say, all right, you know, let's make sure we know who's in our room. So it's basic stuff just to, you know, think about before you, you know, before you get yourself on camera.
Right. And, you know, same thing goes for the students. I don't know that we're necessarily conveying that to parents and students to be doing that in their house, but, you know, this stuff will be accessible to people outside the organization, just anyone who can, you know, collect data. I mean, they tell you on their privacy page, they're collecting data on your you know, your sessions, but in the same manner that Google does. It's not like in something new that we're not familiar with, but just so people are aware of, you know, what we're doing, you know, with the Zoom kind of thing, that, you know, then pass that same information to the students. You know, we don't necessarily want to see something in their house that we shouldn't be seeing, you know what I mean? So you can't unsee things, unfortunately.
Right. And, you know, what Al's saying is also a thought for all of us as teachers, that usually if you're a classroom teacher, you're leaving it on the shoulders of the tech integration specialists, the technology teachers, to talk to the kids about these things we call digital citizenship. And really anybody who's doing Zoom conferences, Google Meets, shared Google Docs, anything, it's great to remind your students, especially as they get older and they're starting to have their own apps that they use, whether it's Snapchat or TikTok or fill in the blank, to be mindful that every technology that we use is quietly collecting data about us in the background. So being that we're all on the internet, Zoom can look at the technical details and know what's your location. So you're in the United States, it probably gets down to you're in the, you know, you're in a particular county, Union County. It probably gets down to your town, you're in Union. So things like that, that data is collected, and Zoom, like Google, is not an entirely philanthropic organization. So they'll be sharing that data with their advertisers. Well, we had so many people from the East Coast, so many people from New Jersey. What somebody else said, Peggy was mentioning that they asked the teacher to rename participants so last names don't show on the Zoom screen. So that can be a helpful thing to, even just have the kids sign on with first name, last initial. So those digital citizenship conversations are things that you're going to start having naturally with your students. And what I do when I do little Zoom conferences and post things online, I actually take some screenshots, I edit it in a photo editing software, and I put them into the Zoom so that, into the video, so that I'm not sharing people's email addresses or Zoom meeting room numbers.
Aw.
Now, see, that's the kind of fun, Michelle, that we need to keep us all interested. Was that a cat coming through?
Yeah, that was a cat trying to come through.
What fun. And let's see. So yeah, and the other thing, I think it was Peggy had mentioned, we're even having to have those digital citizenship conversations with parents. She was mentioning that you might find parents wanting to share photos from this year on their own Facebook pages, but parents don't necessarily always know who has permission to publish, because that's really a teacher thing. And so, reminding parents to be mindful of how much they're sharing about other children that are not their own.
Yeah, as an aside, we have that problem with my own kids in public schools. When the parents go in and they volunteer for a class party or something, they take pictures, they put them on Facebook, and it's even though, like, I have my kids, it's okay if they, if their image shows up, but not every kid is, and they're in the school. There's a big legal issue there that no one seems to take seriously, that one parent can turn around and say, hey, my kid's not supposed to be on, and therefore you've got a significant liability here. So, and the same thing with online stuff. Well, hey, I know last week I said, oh, this is really cool. I took a screenshot, and I said, I'll put it on LinkedIn and said, this is what we're doing as, tech directors and whatnot in the Archdiocese of Newark. But I made sure that there was no phone numbers. I blacked out everybody's name, that, the bunch of people, it just says their names. So it doesn't look like you can really tell who it is, because not everybody's going to want to, potentially associate with my social media post. So it's mindful of that too, that people could take screenshots, and, people could, record. They could be, someone could be standing next to me recording or something, or it's
That's
just
a
all
very
that stuff
good
you have to
point.
keep in mind. Yeah.
And all that said, whoever is listening to this, don't panic, right? We're just trying to think through the logistics of things. But, these Zoom conferences and these Google Meets are really just mentally helpful to everybody to try to keep that feeling of the normalcy of the classroom. So you want to be mindful, but you don't want to panic. It's just, it's conversations that you slowly have with teachers in the school, and with other students in the classroom. Be mindful of what you're wearing, be mindful of where you're sitting, be mindful of what's showing on the screen. And it's a great lesson for the kids, because they know, but their brains aren't fully developed to keep remembering that, even for themselves, if they have Instagrams or Snapchats or whatever, that all these things can be tagged with where you're located. People can see who you're with, and it's just an extension of what's their normal digital life that we're thinking through as teachers. So we're heading on to 10 o'clock. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. So let us bless ourselves, and we'll say the Hail Mary in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Hail Mary,
Full
full
of grace, the Lord is with thee.
Blessed
Blessed
art
art thou
thou
among women, and blessed is the fruit Thy
Thy
one
Lord
Jesus.
Holy
Holy Mary,
Mother
Mother
of
of
God,
God,
pray
for
for us
us
sinners,
sinners,
now
now and
now
at
and
the
at the
hour of
hour
our
of our
death.
death.
Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Okay, so thank you to everybody
you.
who took time.
Thank you.
It is just, it's so good. I learned so much when I talk to everybody. You are amazing teachers. Everybody that you work with is just working, like you said, 1,000%. And those 12 and 14-hour days should get to be more normal. And keep in mind, Easter break is coming, so we'll all have that mental time to step away from our work and just be with our families. If you have any questions, my name is Ann Oro. It's up there on the screen in the middle. And if you need to get in touch with me via email, via phone, talk to your principal, I'm happy to hop on Zooms if you just want to try something and you have nobody else to try things with. And keep sharing in our Facebook group. You know, we're going to do better when we work together, that's for sure.